Welcome back. Another podcast style episode that we have is with Ade, who went from minus 6.25 diopters to minus 4 diopters. And he's here to share some of his journey with us.
So my name is Ade. I am from Kingston, Jamaica. I live here. I've been living here my whole life. Except for a short period when I went to college in the US. I started with my last prescription before starting the program was in January last year, actually like almost exactly a year ago. It was -6 in the left eye and -6.25 in the right eye. The left eye had astigmatism correction of 0.75. Right eye had no astigmatism correction. Well, the way that I got to Endmyopia, I guess it was kind of interesting. I remember watching other people's experience of how they got to it. But for me, I kind of got upset with the glasses that I had, that I got from the optometrist. I couldn't see my face in the first place with them. And when I finally got at -6, you can't really put glasses on to see how you look. So,
oh my God, I forgot about this. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
so-
right.
yeah,
Go to the optometrist and they're like, oh, how does this frame look? And you can't actually see yourself. I completely forgot about this. I used to be at that point because I was like close to -5 diopters and I'd get really close to the mirror. Funny.
Yeah, and you'd have to rely on what someone else says, and what they think looks good is not what I think looks good, because it's a whole self-image thing. So if I get a new pair of glasses, I have to change my self-image, and I didn't want that. So I ended up going back to wearing the old pair that I had, which was basically the same, except the left eye was 5.75, and I think the same correction, astigmatism. So I just went back to wearing them, but they were visibly old and shaky and scratched up, and I couldn't see properly at night because of the glare. All of that film that they put over it again.
Anti-reflective coatings usually.
Yeah, like all of that got scratched up. So I was kind of in a spot where I was refusing to wear the new glasses, even though I paid a bunch of money on it. And I went back to my old glasses. And for the first time, I guess, in my life, I decided, I started to question this whole glasses thing and the need for it, and whether or not I could actually reverse it. It was in the back of my mind for a few years before, because I remember actually being in a Tai Chi class and the instructor told me to do this kind of block, this block. He told me to take my glasses off and put me out in the garden and say, just do this and look at your hand and then look over your hand when it goes and your eyes will get better. And I'm like, okay. That was the first time. This was maybe 4 years ago. I think that was the first time it kind of dawned in my mind that, wait, I can improve my eyes if I do this. But, it didn't really work. I did it for like a month, but it didn't work. But anyways, I guess I planted a seed, and then some years later, I get these glasses I didn't like. And I remember I went home. I worked for like 2 days. So the next day, I was like, I'm not wearing these glasses anymore. I went back to my old glasses and decided to search online for remedies or a natural way to improve your eyesight. So the first suggestion that came up was it's someone was telling me about eye palming and eye massages and stuff like that. So I tried it for approximately one evening before I was like, this is not going to work. And then I decided to look again, and then I randomly scrolled through the first page of the Google search, like naturally healing eyesight or something. I just tapped on one result randomly, and it happened to be a page from Endmyopia. I don't remember the title. I don't remember what the page was about, the post was about. But there is this thing at the bottom that you have for most of your pages, most of your posts, that says PS, your eyes are not broken, right? And that really resonated with me because I had started to think that, you know, something like logically, you know, the whole experience of the couple of weeks of getting the new glasses and kind of starting to think about it was like, you know, I've never been diagnosed with anything that says that you have some kind of eye disease or some disease that says that something, you know, nothing congenital or anything like that. It's just that my eyes are weak. Like my eyes are weak, there must be a way to make them stronger, right? Logically speaking. So, you know, so to me, I started to think that my eyes weren't really broken; they were just weak. So when I saw that, I was like, all right, this makes sense. So I read the About page. It's the next thing I read. And I read his story, and then I signed up for the 7-day free course, and I guess the rest is history. Oh, so where I'm here now, so that was in February. Like I discovered Endmyopia, I think in February, at the beginning of February last year, 2019. And by March, I had the first differential. And then in April, I had the first normalized. And now I am wearing, so coming from -6.25, which is the right eye, and now I'm wearing -4. And I can see, like outside in the shade, like up to yesterday, I could see, actually with my right eye, I could see 20/10 on the Steiner chart, 20-foot chart outside in the shade. My left eye, which is the one that had or has astigmatism, kind of gives me a bit of problem still. Easily I can get to 20/25. If I pull a little more, I can get to 20/15. That's outside in the shade. But so like that's where I'm at right now.
And that's, you still get any blur challenge with that? That sounds like you're almost a little overcorrected already with the normalized.
Actually, I get blur challenge, yes, indoors, a lot, but outside, most of the blur challenge comes from motion blur, like moving and, you know, quickly looking at something, and it will be blurry first, and then I have to pull. But yeah, a lot of the times it's automatic focus that I'm getting. What I like, where I'm at right now, like I'm wearing this -4, like this is the 7th week. And at first it was challenging, but no, like my right eye tends to, like, the first thing in the morning is usually more challenging for some reason, right? And then if I spend after several minutes outside, then it will get easier and easier until, like, I know my right eye just basically it just automatically focuses, right? My left eye, like, I usually have to do this to see what's going on. But my left eye, I realize that it still is kind of lagging. So then I have to active focus both eyes and then see, okay, my left eye is pulling now, getting better. Yeah.
I find that, you know, it's so interesting to me to hear, compared to all the online, like, typing on screens thing, like, you actually saying it, like, it's just making me think about and realize, like, how straightforward it is, and at the same time how different it is that this just works, right? Like, the glasses paradigm where they're just telling you your eyes are broken, too bad, wear these things forever. But here you are, like, here's my left eye and here's my right eye and here's what my eye needs to start focusing, and here's where my vision is in the morning. Like, you're taking a way more active role in your eyesight as opposed to just using that stupid symptom treatment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like for me, I didn't like the idea or the feeling of like helplessness or incompetence, like I can't do something, you know. So whenever I get, I guess it's one of those things. Like started to go up in my mind, like starting like about 5 or so years ago. You know, I started to kind of wake up to a few things, and this is, I guess, one of the latest things that I don't need to. I can actually improve things that conditions that I'm not happy with, and eyesight was just one of them. Part of the thing also, I guess, that triggered it was that my sister also wears glasses. Her eyesight improved by a little bit when she had gotten tested at some point. Um, and so I hadn't tested my eyes in like 5 years because I could see properly, right? But the only reason why I did is because I needed new glasses. So I went with somewhat of the expectation that, you know, maybe my eyes would improve too. But then told me that no, it didn't improve. And I remember the optometrist lady, when she tested me, she was very strict and stern with me. I said that you have to come back here every year, you know, because your myopia is pretty high. And I remember sitting in the chair like, that makes no sense. All I'm doing is coming back for you to give me a worse prescription. It made no sense to me. That was one of the triggers in my mind at the time. It just made no sense. Why am I coming back to get stronger prescription? That's not what I want. I want better eyesight, you know?
Yeah, and I think
So,
most optometrists are good people, right? And even though I
yeah,
rant a lot on the site, and I'm just individuals annoy me, but if you take a step back, like that's what they're taught and they believe it. But from a sales perspective, it is a brilliant pitch because the first thing they do is make you feel like it's your own fault and like what you said, incompetent or unable, right? Like, so you're in this
yeah,
position of weakness to begin with. They're in this position of authority. So you don't question, like those glasses cost $2. And people watch this who know me, like rolling the eyes at my rants at this, but how else do you sell a $2 thing for $50 or $200, right? Other than making somebody feel crappy and insignificant and not in control.
yeah. I didn't like the feeling at all. Like, and I guess that was like one of the indicators that I had. Sometimes it's good to follow your feeling in some cases, and in that case, I definitely felt like I was being placed in a position where I felt helpless, and I didn't like that feeling, and I didn't want it anymore, and I wanted to just do something about it. It was just that it was so interesting compared to like other people's experience that I came to you so quickly. I remember one of your last podcasts, and the guy said that you had been looking for such a long time and he couldn't find you, and it was just two Google searches and I came upon you. I'm really thankful for that because I guess I was lucky. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, because Google's censoring us now too, apparently. Like there's this whole new initiative about not showing alternative health related search results. So
Uh,
like that's why I'm doing more of these
I'm
videos.
aware of that. Like I build websites and SEO, do SEO and stuff. So I'm aware of like the Google up and down. Every time
Yeah,
you
I
change
mean,
it.
we've lost like 80% of our traffic, and it's
Oh,
good. Like I'm happy about it because it's putting me in. I would never do these kinds of videos. Like I'm an introvert. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want my face on the internet. But
mhm.
I feel like instead of relying on Google, now I'm more like, okay, so we got to take this in our own hands and we got to spread the word and we got to have these conversations. We got to do this stuff. So as much as it pains me when you're saying you have to be lucky to find it, I'm like, okay, like if we take a more active role, right? Like talking about this stuff, then hopefully it'll spread more because like I was in this position and I get so much email every single day from people that are in this space where they're like, I don't know if this works. I don't know what I'm doing. The optometrist says I'm a genetic failure, right? And you don't hear about alternatives, right? Like you hear about like real health conditions like diabetes and obesity and all this stuff where it's like there's a conversation about solutions and there's no conversation about myopia and solutions really yet.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those red pill things, I feel like. So at least at this point, I mean, eventually, I think people will eventually wake up to it as more and more people take control of their health. I mean, more and more people are trying to take control of their health anyway. So I have a grandmom that she was diagnosed with diabetes, and she decided that she would take control of her health, of her diet and stuff, and she no longer takes meds. She just controls. She just eats properly, and everything is fine according to what the doctor says. So, like nowadays, everybody's, or a lot of people, anyways, are trying to take back some of that control. You know.
So you do web stuff for a living. How much time do you get away from screens? Has this journey changed anything about your screen relationship, outdoor time, other stuff?
You know, yeah, I've been spending more time more outdoors. I didn't use that first because I'm like you, I'm a huge introvert, and I like to be inside, like working on something. In fact, like I guess that's how I ended up with myopia in the first place. Like I started wearing glasses, I think like around 8, but it was on and off, until permanently I started again at 10. Because my favorite thing to do at the time was draw. Like, but I'll be drawing like this, you know, and it for like hours a day. I stopped drawing, but now I'm on the computer, so you know it doesn't help. But luckily, I mean, I outsource a lot of things that I do, so I don't spend as much time at the computer anymore. And I try to spend as much time as I can outside, but at the same time trying to balance it out, because I had a bit of a trouble or an issue with finding things to do outside, because I need some kind of incentive to do most things in my life, you know, not just like, okay, I'm outside now and I'm sitting around and, right, that's it. I'm outside. You know, I'm supposed to look at things. Okay. It got boring a bit quickly, so I had to find something to do, and I bought a bicycle, and then I've been riding around the place, riding to new places and finding new places to you know, it's become an adventure. So I've been finding adventure outside now.
Yeah,
and that has helped a lot.
And that's interesting. And this is like more meant to be you talking, so I don't want to interject too much, but that's a lot of what I'm doing, because by default, I would never leave this room. Wow, this is a hotel room, but I would just be like, a screen's all I need. So I keep, like, it's become a long-term habit by now. I'm always kind of digging for a thing. Like, this is a Burmese jungle and I've got 3 motorbikes, which is completely pointless, but they're fun to play with, right? And there's all these off-road trails, and I'm like, well, I guess I could go do that, right? Like, the digging, like I remember I lived in the US and I bought a folding bike because I'm like, I could put this thing on the train or on a bus. I could go somewhere else with it and then take it off and then go place. Not something I'd want to do by my nature, but just like fighting this like screen thing, right? Like it's so addictive. It's so instant gratification. It's so much less like overhead and risk, right? But then if you have enough little like toys that like only work outside or only work away from a screen, like over time, it really adds up. Like Jamaica, like I feel like Jamaica would have a ton of stuff that you could go do and explore, right?
Yeah. I've been like doing a lot of hill riding lately. I got a bit of a setback in the last couple of weeks because I had a bit of an accident. I fell off the bicycle, but So it's limited my outdoor time a little bit, but better now, so I'm going to go back out like this week. But yeah, there's a lot of fun things to do outside. And I try to find as much to do. I don't really have that much of a screen addiction, except lately I've been finding that YouTube has been kind of drawing into my phone screen a bit more and more. I had already cut out Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Like I only use Facebook or Twitter if it's like work related or something, but I'm hardly on social media anymore, mainly because it kind of feels fake, you know, fake interactions. So I didn't really feel, I don't feel anything, it doesn't feel substantial to me. So I just kind of cut it off. And reading, I've switched some of my reading to audiobooks. And yeah, so my screen addiction thing has, I basically have that under control. I only look at the screen when I need to, right? Which is work-wise. And maybe about between 2 to 4 hours a day working at the screen. It's all I have. And the rest of the day is just various types of distance vision, whether it's in the apartment or in the yard or on the road or something, you know.
Yeah, and you're doing your own thing, right?
My own thing.
Like you don't have a employer or a place that you need to go to every day? So you could basically roam off to wherever you want at any given point,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, I'm happy about that. That's like one of the blessings too. I'm very thankful for like, kind of like where I am in my life so that I can actually take care of this, of working on my eyesight. As long as it doesn't rain or something, and then for like a week. And then it's not that fun, but yeah.
There's so many like random, insane things. Like lately, the last couple of years, people get tired of me talking about it, but like the kite surfing thing, I've been super into.
Oh.
Right? Because it's just like, it's nerdy, because like the kites and the gear, you can get pretty nerdy about it. But at the same time, it's adrenaline, and I cover myself head to toe because I don't even want to be in the sun. But you're getting an hour or two of a super fun experience. Plus you have to get there and you have to get back, and it can eat up a whole day.
I haven't tried that, and that's a good idea. I should try that.
Oh, you would love it.
I'm going to write it down.
So addictive. It's so addictive. Like if you've got wind around there and there is kiting, and if you don't try it, then you're totally missing out. Not that dangerous.
There's a kite, I know there's a kite season. There's like, I think comes around May or April, but it gets more extra windy. I need to double check that, but yeah, because sometimes I see there are people who on the side of the road that just sells kites. You know, actually, to be honest, I need to be a bit more adventurous. I think if you were here, you would be more adventurous than me. I'm just riding around on a bicycle.
See, I'm not adventurous though. My whole thing is I try to surround myself with people who are adventurous, and they force me to do.
That's actually, I need to do that too. You know, it's interesting that, you know, it's introverts, right? Last year, one of my goals for last year was to spend more time outside. This was before. I set this goal, last year was 2019, so I set this goal at the end of 2018, that in 2019, I must get more outdoor time, because I literally was just spending all my time inside. And of course, I had not thought about improving my eyesight. I did not meet Endmyopia or Jake or anything like that, right? So it's interesting that in 2019, I discovered Endmyopia, and that has really been the incentive for me to get outside. If I probably didn't discover Endmyopia, I'd still be inside pretty much all the time. But,
true for me also. It's true for me also, and it's a funny thing because like I think one of the things, I have this theory, it's a total theory, that glasses change our personality, or at least like tweak it. Because I remember I used to really enjoy, like when I was a kid, water polo, super fun. But then as my
Yeah.
vision got worse, the ball became this like blurry thing. And then I got less good at it. And then the members of the team would get annoyed at me. And I feel like, I don't know exactly, because I can't, like memory is not the most sharpest thing, but I feel like there's a correlation between my vision getting worse and me picking books over other things because my eyesight was getting worse, and then confusing worse eyesight with being clumsy, right? Because if you're wearing glasses, especially glasses and not contact lenses, you're lacking your peripheral vision, your hand-eye coordination doesn't seem right, your fine motor control doesn't seem right, you're a little bit more anxious, right? So as I'm looking at other people going through this especially, and I'm looking at my own past, I'm like, how much of this is really quote unquote introvert versus how much of it is the enforced handicap of the glasses? Like, I'm not really
Yeah.
sure.
Um, you know, I've given this a lot of thought, like this since the beginning of this journey. I, it has caused me to think a lot about it. And for me, I tend to look at things from the psychological perspective. And I know, like a lot of people say that, this is all just genetic and stuff like that, which doesn't really make that much sense to me, because of my parents. My mom only started to wear glasses when I went to college, and she's prescribed. And my dad um, has perfect vision, right? He has perfect 20/10 vision outside, right? Doesn't need glasses. So, and then their parents is the same thing. So I'm like, how can this be really genetic? And so I think about it kind of psychologically. And one of the things that I came to realize, and it was an experience I had with my mom. She likes to plant flowers, and she has a green thumb. She loves gardening, so she likes being outside, right? And I remember when visiting her house, my parents' house one day, I saw one of their flowering plants, really beautiful, right? And we were both standing like about 15 feet away from it. And I looked at it and I was like, wow, that's really pretty. And I immediately walked up to it until like I was like a foot away from it, just looking at it and observing it and admiring it. My mom was still like 15 feet back. And eventually she came to me and, and I said, why didn't you come with me? Do you prefer looking from that distance? And she said, yeah, it looks better from that distance. So I find that interesting. Like, she who's presbyopic appreciates how it looks from afar, while me, being myopic, appreciates how it looks up close, right? So that kind of told me that I kind of, or some people kind of have like a psychological preference, like for looking at things close or looking at things further away. And part of the journey for me was kind of figuring out how to make distance vision enjoyable, right? Not just like, looking at something up close and just really getting into it so much so that your eyes just lock up into that experience, but how to enjoy the scene, whatever is further away. Sorry.
And it's super useful. And since we are kind of apparently similar in some of these respects, it's like at a -4, you still have too much myopia for a thing like kite surfing. Like there's waves and there's water, and contacts don't really work in that situation that well. You can wear like glasses that don't fly off and have prescription, but it also doesn't work that well. But if you find things like that you enjoy, and then you have a serious incentive to improve your eyesight, it works a lot better. Like I picked up paragliding, and I still had myopia. I still had 2-3 diopters somewhere in there, and you can wear glasses for that. But if you lost your glasses in flight, It's like you jump off the mountain and you have a wing above you and you're trying to find rising air to keep flying around.
Okay.
It's super demanding from a vision perspective. And if you screw up, like, it's not like kite surfing where you're in the water. Like, you will crash and die, or you could crash and die, or seriously hurt yourself. And I remember when I discovered that sport, like, my vision improvement was way more consistent, because I think in part I was using active focus, like my life depended on it. But I also really had a serious incentive to improve my eyesight. So you're already doing great, obviously. You know, -6 to -4, that's fantastic improvement. But if you really want to get to 2020, it is awesome to have something that's like, that makes you look past just getting to 2020. Like, I want to be out there playing X, Y, and Z thing and not be stuck behind these glasses. Is super helpful.
Yeah, certainly. So I think part of that, like that's why you talked about a good thing for you was to get friends that are adventurous. And so like right now, I mean, yeah, I have friends, but I would have to actually, you know, something. It's a bit of a challenge, I find, to find things to do outside with others, because many people work during the day. I mean, I work during the day too. Like, I prefer to work. I prefer to work where I get some natural light, especially since this, you know, trying to improve my eyesight. I prefer to work when I can get some natural light into the room, because I find that even with artificial lighting, you know, still it's not that great. So even though I have it really place as bright as I can get it, but so I try to get some work done during the day, and then at some point, like in the afternoon, early afternoon, late morning, then I go out and find something to do. But yeah, it's kind of like it's on the agenda for me, you know. Try to figure out how to arrange things to do with others.
Yeah, I think what really
lots of
helps.
people work during the day.
Right, yeah, that's silly. Who does that? But I think what really helps is finding those kinds of, finding the activities. Like, I remember with the paragliding thing, a friend of mine who's adventurous basically bought me lessons. Like, I would have never done that stuff. Like, I have a huge fear of heights. Holy crap, like, no way. But I try to maintain, like, I nurture friendships with people who are more into that kind of stuff. And then when I ended up in that group, that's all those people do. Like, those people will not take day jobs because they're obsessed with that activity. And then in that group, you find a couple of introverts or people that are more like-minded. And then you're like, okay, I like hanging out with these people. And then you end up going there just because you want to hang out, and they fit that lifestyle, right? Like, people with day jobs are really hard to hang out with, because by the time they finish their day jobs, they're tired and then they want to sit at home and watch Netflix.
Yeah, I never had a day job like that, so I wouldn't. I can't really understand. My sister does.
And people watching this or listening to this are like, you guys are two assholes. Like, I have a day job.
You know, that crossed my mind. I was like, but yeah.
Can't please everybody. Let's not worry about it.
Uh-huh.
So -4, what's the next? You're pretty close to another reduction, right?
Yeah, well, this is the 7th week with -4, and actually, the way that I reduce, like the whole journey of each reduction, it wasn't, I guess, was like the most, like the best way, because I was still kind of trying to figure out the whole program and everything going through. So I kind of rushed the initial reductions, and right now, even though I can see, like I say, 2010, you know, or let's say 2013, right, outside in the shade with these. Sometimes I do feel a bit of a pull or a strain feeling. So I'm wondering, and like when I'm indoors, I feel it more indoors. So like I really don't like spending all the time indoors. Like if I go to the supermarket, I'm just in and out, you know. Eventually I find though it does get better, but even though I can see better, it's still not all that comfortable. So I'm probably thinking of just hanging around with these for a while until everything just like everything, left eye is exact on point with my right eye, you know, everything just lines up properly. And then when I feel like, yeah, can move forward, then so I'm planning on taking maybe a little longer than normal, you know, to just make sure that things are done properly. Because like I said, like I kind of reduced quickly in the initial stages, you know, and maybe it's kind of catching up with me or something. So
yeah, that's true too. A lot of people do, and it's maybe my fault because I post a lot of improvement reports that are rapid gains, and you may be overcorrected and you discover active focus and you reduce ciliary spasm. So there's room, like you've got some room in the first diopter usually is space that you can reduce anyway. And then the next diopter is a little bit more challenging. At that point, it depends on the person, because some people are just, maybe they have a lot of ciliary spasm, right? Maybe they have a lot more space with active focus. I just talked to Dave, who's always in the Facebook group talking about active focus, and he went from minus 4.75 to no glasses since 2017, right? So that
2
happened.
years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Which is unusual. He also had diabetes, and right, like that probably played into, like, he reduced his blood sugar and improved his life in other ways. But then I don't like to make blanket statements that you can't improve fast, because it's certainly possible. But in a lot of cases, it's like what you're describing, like the first improvements or the reductions are really exciting. They get you into this, right? Like there's nothing wrong with like rushing it a little bit just because you're excited, and it gets you more into continuing with this. But then there's definitely the point where you're likely to plateau somewhere where you've overdone the last reduction. So the way you're saying and what you're saying makes perfect sense. Like if you go indoors and you feel uncomfortable, the light spectrum is not amazing, especially fluorescent light, not that great. And you feel like, yeah, I don't love this. If you make another reduction, you might hit a point where you're quasi-sabotaging your improvement by overdoing the reductions.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd rather not that not happen. So yeah, I'm going to stick around at -4 for a while. I mean, I'm hoping that by the end of the year, because you said like 0.75 to 1 diopter like a year. So I'm hoping I'm at -3 at the end of the year, or -2.25 at least. You know, so that's like goal for the end of the year. I'm happy with -3.25. I mean, I'm coming from -6.25. You know,
0.75 a year is totally realistic. Like, would I generally say any less than that, and it's worth troubleshooting, because then there's usually still strain or not enough stimulus. Any more than 0.75 a year is just feel good about it, but it's not something you should necessarily expect.
Yeah, and I definitely want to, like, I'm at the point now where I'm a bit of a minimalist, and I like things to just kind of happen on automatic. I like automation. So I don't want to have to think about it too much. So like for the first first few months and year, like I guess now, everything was just Endmyopia. Everything was just back to 2020, and kind of like right now I'm at the stage where I want to get back a little bit of my life in a sense. So
no.
But So yeah, that would probably happen if I'm not trying to like push and just like drive really hard and see how fast I can go, you know. But just let it happen naturally on its own, you know. Now I realize there's a process that it happens naturally, you know, if you just provide enough stimulus, which is outdoor time, you know, active focus, um, reducing the screen time, and you know, the reduced, what do you call it now, the differentials for the screen time, you know, between all of those things, you know, things should happen quite naturally. And it's good that it happens naturally, so I don't really have to think about it that much anymore. It just become a part of my routine, so I can, you know, go on with other things in my life.
Yeah, and that's the idea. Like, I structured the whole thing because I guess we have similar kind of paths, because whether you're doing internet stuff or stock stuff, it's the same kind of analysis of things and figuring out what the angles are on things. That's how I structured Endmyopia, because I'm like, you start out at minus 6.25. There's no exercise on planet Earth you're going to do long enough to get all the way back to 2020. So there has to be a structure that you can put in place that then continues doing the work for you. So if you build the right habits in the first place, and you get your screen time in check, and you build the right habits, and you have the expectation of making a reduction every 3 to 4 months, realizing if you're not making that reduction, then there's time for troubleshooting. And then the little tweak, ideally you'd add some kind of activity or hobby that incentivizes you to keep doing it, right? Yeah. Because the one thing that I notice people fall off the proverbial wagon is they don't really have a need specifically for 20/20 eyesight. So while they'll get there, there isn't a drive, you know, that's not Endmyopia, because it shouldn't be watching my stupid videos. It should be like, I'm practicing X, Y, and Z activity or sport or whatever it is. And for that, better eyesight would be useful. That's really handy, especially on this, when you say automating the journey, right? Like, to maintain the good habits.
Yeah. You spoke about like some people like they to remain motivated to get back to natural 20/20 vision. Like for me, I guess that's something that I don't really fully understand it, because for me, like the greatest thing in the world would be to no longer have to wear glasses. You know, so it's like it's actually since a child. That's why, like I said, I started wearing glasses at 8, but it was on and off, and it wasn't permanently until 10, because I never wanted to wear glasses in the first place. In fact, I still have my first pair of glasses, and the lenses are very scratched up because I was so angry that I had glasses that I sat on the floor and I went like this on the ground with them, so I would never have to wear them again. And I guess it would have worked, but you know, like I said, that the primary cause, which I didn't know at the time, of course, and no one told me, was I used to spend hours at the time just drawing, you know, like my face just like inches away from the paper, you know, and I never stopped, and it just kept going, you know. So to me, this is kind of like fulfilling a childhood dream, in a sense. It's something that I've wanted for a long time. So I'm really appreciative of discovering it, and especially in a way that I did, which was almost kind of stumbling into it in a sense, you know.
People say that a lot, and it always, like, I don't love the word, because it definitely says that I'm Michael. Oh, I stumbled onto your site. It's like, no, you couldn't just find it, right? Like, it wasn't obvious. It was like, it was behind this rock, behind this thing by accident. Because my only goal for Endmyopia is people are looking for a better answer to be able to easily find it. Like, I'm not trying to preach it. I'm not trying to, like, there's some mainstream places that have asked me to have longer conversations with them. And I'm like, I don't want to push it on people, but if you're looking for it, I want it to be findable. And it's not that super findable.
Mm-hmm. Well, I
stumbled,
mean,
right? I
well,
clicked some random link somewhere and there it was.
well, I mean, just keep doing what you're doing because the world needs to know anyway. So, I mean,
It's
I'm happy.
the world needs you and me to have these conversations because people get tired of my face, and I think it's a lot more credible to have you, right? You start at minus 6.25, you're at minus 4. You talk about things that are meaningful because that's what happened to you. Like it's a childhood dream, you scratched up your glasses, you really want to get back to that. I think that resonates more than me, who's a little bit obsessed with this topic, who you've seen on 5 billion videos already, and you're like, what is the guy's real motive? So I really appreciate that you come on and share your story, because I think it adds a lot to this, to the bigger picture of what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to share it. I I shared it with, I mean, my family knows about it, and I think I've told two other friends, but I guess this is actually the most public that I have done it because at the same time, I'm not too jumpy of just like telling the whole world in the sense of like random people because, you know, most people are going to be like, you know, out of my mind or something like that, you know. So I like I'm in a position where if I find someone I can tell that they might be open to it, then I'll tell them, right? But I mean, I remember I told a friend of mine, she wears glasses, it's very low myopia. She like even just wears it sometimes, right? And I told her that, you know, I was working on reducing my myopia, and in fact, I went to the ophthalmologist, and it was confirmed. You know, at that time, it was reduced to minus 4.5, right? And it just went over her head, you know. So I realized, sorry, I wasn't going to push it any further.
No, and I never talk about it. I don't. Generally, most of my friends don't even know because I used to talk about it, but then I learned that people, like you said, they either think you're crazy or it's just not that interesting. The whole thing is just, can you find it, right? Like if you're looking for it, can you find it? And not just find Bates method and eye exercises and things that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you keep mentioning Bates method. I still don't know what Bates method is. I know I can see your face. I still don't know what Bates method.
It's the palming.
It's a palming thing. Okay.
Yeah, what you were talking about, like the eye exercises, that's the thing that everybody finds.
Okay. It's only like you're the first person well no, you're the first person. Your first person was the guy I told you like who told me about palming and eye massages. I didn't know that was Bates method. But I knew it wasn't going to work because it didn't make any sense to me. I did appreciate some aspect of it though. I did appreciate it's like treating myself well and treating my eyes good, you know. So I still do like sometimes I like a rub around here or whatever, just to kind of show like, you know, some appreciation or some good feeling. Because I think feeling is important regarding these things.
Sure, for sure.
If you're not feeling it, then you're not going to get anywhere.
And that's where, like for example, late in the day, like close to sunset, I love to stand outside, face the sun with my eyes closed, and just the late sun, you know, like just before sunset, like it goes through your closed eyelids, and it's just this warm glow kind of feeling, and it's so relaxing. I love it. I love it. You won't find me talking about it anywhere on the site though, because it's not like I really like, and maybe it's my mindset, right? Like I'm a data guy. I like things that are quantifiable and skip anything that doesn't get me to that goal. But I completely agree with you, and maybe I'm not doing that part justice, where there are definitely things like you like rubbing around your eyes. Like I love sunsets with eyes closed. There are definitely things that that come from other ideas, even the Bates method thing that people might find really useful. I'm just trying not to blur the line too much between here's some stuff that we know works and why it works, and then the things that veer off into who knows.
Yeah. I think some aspect of, I think, but as regards that part, I think that is definitely a self journey aspect. You definitely need the data. Like I'm a big data person as well, and I tend to analyze things. In fact, I tend to over analyze sometimes, but things need to make sense. Like I need to be able to put the dots together, right? And then once it fits together, then once you take the journey, then you start to discover things on your own. Like, does this feel good when I do that? It's just sort of, you kind of want to reward yourself in the process, and to make sure that what you're doing to yourself or for yourself is a good thing. It's kind of weird, I guess, or to say it's like the body has its own intelligence, and it's kind of like training an animal, but you want to make sure like you reward it, and that it keeps looking forward for the next milestone. So I make sure that I do what I'm doing to treat myself properly and treat my eyes well, and make sure that I'm not too uncomfortable.
Yeah, I wonder about this because like you and I, analytical people, and I don't know if this is correct. I don't know if this is accurate. I feel as though there's this kind of personality or type, and then there are lots of people, and again, I'm just saying this, who knows if it's true, there are a lot of people who are on the other side of this that don't really care about the data, that don't really care about the proof. They would much better respond to what I call unicorn farming, the feeling and emotion and amazing journey thing that I laugh at, but I definitely partially like that also. But I always feel as though there's like a divide. Like either we're talking to the people who are going to look at this logically and go, does this work based on data, right? And then there are the people who are on the other side who are like, is this going to work based on how this makes me subjectively feel? And I feel like I picked the path of, okay, let's go with the logic, but I guess I'm kind of asking you, or maybe we're just having this conversation, like, can that gap be bridged, or is it two different audiences that are kind of mutually exclusive?
I think you're bridging the gap actually, because I think there's a lot of people who are on that side, what you call unicorn farming side, and they need help, and I think you're helping them. And but on the other hand, we, or me anyway, speaking for myself, do need their help in the sense of it's nice to have people like that around, because they kind of help to remind me anyways that, hey, what you're dealing with is a living thing. There's life and there's feeling and there's energy, and you need to appreciate it and not try to just drive it like it's a machine. Like I try not to drive. Like I have to hold myself back from making this process. Like I told you that I like automation. I have to hold myself back from making this process a mechanical process, because all the mechanics of it I understand now from reading your website and watching your videos. But to make sure that it's not you're not totally a machine. You have to incorporate some level of feeling and
maybe this site needs like, how there's dark mode now for everything, like light mode and dark mode. Maybe we need to have a button on there for unicorn mode. And we click it.
I thought you were going to say dark mode. I thought you were going to say dark mode. I actually don't like dark mode. It doesn't help.
But just like the unicorn mode, right? And you click the button and the whole site goes full unicorn. Still, the Endmyopia method, but looking at it from what you're saying, like it's a living entity and you have to
A lot
appreciate
of my friends would, I guess, I don't know if any of them would ever get to watch this video. I don't know if I want to share it, but a lot of them actually in the past few years are kind of on the, well, let me not say it, like I have a lot of friends that do yoga and is into, you know, alternative things. So, you know, I guess I kind of balance myself out in that way.
And I do too. And actually, I'm not going to say that I do or have possibly in the past done a bunch of LSD or mushrooms or any of those things. And that a lot of my friends are very dissimilar from myself in that way. And I appreciate all that stuff. My problem with that on the internet is that it usually doesn't lead me to results. Right? Like I had thyroid problems, or I had like other health issues or stuff I needed a definitive answer for, where the guy who's like talking about his heart chakra is not going to help me. Right? Like,
Yeah.
well, I feel like there's a place for it, certainly, like how you deal with humans and how you deal with the experience that is life and how you like quantify things. I turn the data stuff off for that part, but then when I'm like, how do I improve my eyesight? I don't necessarily want to go fluffy feelings. But then on the other hand, maybe the unicorn mode is what the sight needs. Like just a button,
I think,
right? Click it.
yeah.
And it goes all like colorful.
Yeah. I think the first thing is that you get the causes and the actual the way to do things, the data and the analysis, and just figure out how things work, get that part done, and then you can add the other thing, the other component to it. I think that's a good way to balance it out. But in a sense, I mean, I pick it up anyways. You kind of, I see that you're trying to add that vibe to the website and to your YouTube videos anyways. So,
what vibe is that? The angry rants?
Huh?
The rant,
yeah,
the many
rants? Yeah, you do rant. But no, as in, like at first, actually, my impression of you was that you were very, kind of no nonsense kind of guy. Like you had absolutely no patience for, the fluffy feely stuff, right? And as I started to read more and look at more of your videos, I started to sense that you had more qualities that, okay, you like you said, you look like maybe someone that maybe did LSD or shrooms or something, But yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Like there's no template, right? Like this was not an intentional. The whole project wasn't intentional, right? Like most of these internet kind of things, like people set out with a goal, right? Like I'm gonna make a diet program coach website, and I didn't really have that. It was just this other rant thing in the past, and now it's morphing into other things. And I feel
that's one of the things I appreciate about Endmyopia as well, is that like after starting to watch some of your videos, like YouTube's algorithm started sending me a bunch of other how to improve your eyesight videos, and for some reason Pinterest also started sending me a bunch of suggestions and stuff like that, right? And I could tell already that all of those other things were basically just money making. It's just somebody just decided to just engineer a way to like get lots of traffic and then monetize that traffic. But for you, no, I could tell that it was genuine.
Because I'm terrible at traffic, right? Because I have no traffic and no monetizing strategies. Yeah. No, not no traffic, but certainly like, yeah. When you say these things, I'm like, well, how do they do that? I don't know how to do that.
Well, I mean, there are courses on how to do it.
Yeah, I know. Somebody's going to have to figure that out. Well, I really appreciate your time. And just in the interest of not forcing people that are maybe watching or listening to do this all day, I think this is a good maybe summary. Like where you started, where you went from there, and we had a little chat about it. I really appreciate you taking the time to share. Okay, that concludes a long and meandering episode. I don't have a specific format for this, so if you like this versus other ones, or if we're on the wrong track, or you have any feedback, leave comments below. Let me know, help me shape how these conversations go. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity here, chatting with people about their experiences and how they connect with this whole journey of improving their eyesight. And I'd love to get your feedback also, and hit like if you like it. If you want to see more of these, I think we'll be doing more of them. So subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
Meow, 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 meow. Meow.